Olivia Owens didn't expect her entire week to change because of a man standing barefoot in the middle of the resort's koi pond. "Sir, you're not supposed to be in there," she called, jogging over in her staff polo and linen pants, holding a towel she'd grabbed instinctively from the poolside. "That's not a swimming area." The man turned, blinking like he'd just woken up from a dream. He had dark hair that curled slightly at the ends, a crisp white shirt soaked through and clinging to a lean, athletic frame, and eyes the color of a summer storm, deep gray with something unreadable behind them. "I was following the map," he said, holding up a soggy brochure. "Apparently it's upside down, or I am." Olivia bit back a laugh. "You're definitely upside down." He stepped out, water dripping from his pants and shirt. "Well, I guess that explains the koi looking personally offended." She handed him the towel. "You must be new." "Are you checking in?" Was trying to, "but I think I took a wrong turn about 20 minutes ago." She smiled, motioning for him to follow. "Come on, I'll walk you back to the main lobby." He looked at her for a moment, then ran a hand through his wet hair. "Thanks." "You're not going to report me for pond trespassing, are you?" "That depends. Planning on wrecking any other water features today?" He laughed low, warm, and surprisingly genuine. "Not unless they jump out in front of me." Olivia glanced at him as they walked. "You didn't give your name." "Xander Pierce," he said. "First time at a resort. Can you tell?" She raised an eyebrow. "It's either that or you're a very convincing koi whisperer." He grinned, and something fluttered in her stomach, not that she'd admit it. She was a resort activities coordinator, not someone who flirted with guests. But there was something about him. Offbeat, relaxed, and completely unaware that he was turning heads even while soaking wet. They reached the lobby, and she guided him to the front desk. "Xander Pierce," he said again, but slower this time. The receptionist's eyes widened slightly before she masked it with a polite smile. Olivia didn't catch it. "Room's ready," the receptionist said. "Oceanfront villa." "Fancy," Olivia said under her breath. Xander looked at her. "I genuinely have no idea what I booked. I clicked the first thing that mentioned quiet." "Well, you'll get that." "Those villas are like mini castles," Olivia said, then quickly added, "I mean, I've never stayed in one, obviously, but I've helped set them up for guests." He looked like he was about to say something but didn't. "Anyway," she said, stepping back, "welcome to Serenity Sands. Try to stay out of the koi ponds." He gave her a little half salute. "No promises." She turned and walked off, trying not to look back. She wasn't allowed to get involved with guests. And besides, the charming, lost guy was probably here with someone. People like him always were, except he wasn't. Xander watched her go, something unreadable in his eyes. The receptionist cleared her throat. "Mr. Pierce, your bags are already in the room. Shall I have a car pick you up for dinner tonight?" "No," he said, eyes still on the path Olivia had taken. "I think I'll walk." The next day, Olivia was leading a beach yoga class when she saw him again. He wasn't doing yoga. He was sitting off to the side, sunglasses on, legs stretched out in the sand like he belonged there. When their eyes met, he raised a hand in a lazy wave as if this was all perfectly normal. After class, she walked over, brushing sand off her knees, still lost. "Not today. I followed the signs like a good guest. Progress." He tilted his head. "You always lead the yoga classes, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, plus paddle boarding, hiking tours, and salsa night." "That's a lot," she shrugged. "Keeps me busy." "I like that," he said, and his voice was softer now. "You seem like someone who doesn't stand still for long." Olivia blinked. "You only met me yesterday," he smiled. "I'm a fast learner." She should have walked away. Instead, she sat down beside him. "I'm off in 10 minutes. Don't suppose you're interested in paddle boarding?" "I'd fall off in 5 seconds. Most people do." "Then sign me up." She looked at him, really looked at him. There was something about the way he watched her, not in a superficial way, but like he was trying to see past whatever she kept on the surface. She liked it more than she should have. By the third day, they were seeing each other constantly. He joined her hiking tour and asked thoughtful questions about the local plants. He showed up for salsa night and stepped on her toes twice before laughing and pulling her closer. He took her out for frozen yogurt from the beach shack, even though the resort had a 5-star restaurant. "You could eat anything you want," she said. "I am," he replied, licking vanilla off a spoon. "This is the good stuff." She didn't ask questions, didn't wonder why he always paid cash or why he never mentioned what he did for a living. He was just Xander. The guy who made her laugh, who listened when she talked, who made her feel like she was the only person on the resort. But then on the 4th day, everything shifted. She was walking past the private cabana check-in when she heard one of the concierge staff whispering. "He's staying in the oceanfront villa. Do you know who he is?" "Xander Pierce. He owns the Pierce Group." Olivia froze, like, "The investment firm?" one of them asked. "Yeah, he's a millionaire, probably more than that." A strange chill ran down her spine. She didn't hear the rest. She walked away quickly, her heart pounding. He hadn't told her, not once. And all this time she'd thought he was just some laid-back, slightly awkward guy, but he wasn't. He was a millionaire. And suddenly, everything felt different. She found him later that afternoon on the beach, sitting in the same spot as before. "Hey," he said, smiling at her. "You okay?" "You didn't tell me," she blurted. He blinked. "Tell you what? Who you are." He took off his sunglasses slowly. "What did you hear? That you're rich." "Like really rich," he sighed. "Right. You let me think you were just some lost guy in a koi pond. I was, and I didn't lie, you just didn't ask." She folded her arms. "It feels dishonest." "I didn't want you to treat me differently." His voice was low now. "And I didn't want to assume I deserved your time just because of money." She hesitated. "I like you, Olivia, not as a guest, not as someone passing through. I just like you." Her chest tightened. "I don't need you to like me back," he added quickly. "But I'd regret it forever if I didn't at least say it." She didn't answer. She just sat beside him again like she had before, close enough that their shoulders touched, and for a moment neither of them said a word. "You're quiet," Xander said as they sat beneath the umbrella, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the sand. "I don't think I've seen you this still since, well, ever." Olivia tucked her knees up to her chest, eyes fixed on the horizon. "I'm trying to figure out if I'm angry, embarrassed, or just incredibly stupid." "You're not stupid." His voice was gentle, but it didn't soften the knot in her stomach. "I work with people every day. I raid them. I pride myself on being able to spot the difference between someone genuine and someone who's playing a role, and yet," she let the words trail into the wind. "I wasn't playing a role," he said. "I just didn't lead with my net worth." She turned to him. "It's not about how much you have. It's about what that means. You're in a different world, Xander. I can't even afford the bottled water in your villa." He looked down, brushing a line in the sand with his finger. "I didn't come here to be that guy. I needed to disappear from it, not drag it with me." "Why?" Her tone wasn't accusatory anymore, just curious. He hesitated, then leaned back on his elbows, eyes on the sky. "My father passed away 4 months ago. I inherited everything. The company, the properties, the board full of people who think I'm too young to run any of it. I needed air. Somewhere no one expected anything from me." "You picked a luxury resort," she said flatly. "I paid online," he replied. "Didn't even look at the pictures. Just typed in quiet beach. I didn't realize what I booked until I got here." She blinked. "So you really didn't know, I swear, and then I met you." She crossed her arms, and thought that I'd be a fun distraction. "No," he said firmly. "I thought you were the first person who saw me without trying to get something. Someone who wasn't impressed by names or numbers. That mattered to me." Olivia stood, brushing sand off her legs. "You should have told me the truth sooner." "I wanted to," he said, getting to his feet. "But every time I tried, I saw how relaxed you were around me. I didn't want to lose that." She looked up at him, her expression unreadable. "It's not just about money, Xander. It's about honesty, trust." He nodded slowly. "Then let me earn it back." Before she could respond, a voice called her name from a distance. It was Janice, one of the other coordinators, waving her over. "I have to help with the bonfire setup," she said, stepping away. "Will I see you later?" he asked, not quite hopeful, not quite defeated. She didn't answer, but she didn't say no either. That evening, the beach was aglow with lanterns and the crackle of flames. Couples lounged on blankets, a guitarist plucked soft chords from his instrument, and the air smelled of roasted pineapple and sea salt. Olivia worked the perimeter, checking setups and directing stray guests back to the main area. Her eyes kept drifting toward the darker stretch of sand near the waterline, where Xander stood alone, hands in his pockets, watching the fire from a distance. She didn't go to him. Not until the crowd began to thin and the music gave way to waves and wind. "You stayed," she said, approaching him quietly. "I figured if I left, it would feel like I was running." She studied his profile in the dim light. "You're not what I expected. Neither are you," he turned to her, something tentative in his expression. "I meant what I said. I didn't come here to pretend, I came here to breathe. And then I met someone who made that possible." Olivia's voice was soft. "You're not used to people saying no to you, are you?" He gave a short laugh. "I'm used to people pretending they want to say yes." She didn't look away. "I don't need anything from you, Xander. Not a free dinner, not a room upgrade, not a favor. But I also won't be someone you hide behind when you want to escape your life." "I'm not trying to escape anymore," he said. "I'm trying to figure out where I actually belong. And where is that?" "I don't know," he admitted. "But every time I'm near you, it feels closer." She stared at him, something shifting in her chest she didn't want to name yet. "Do you dance?" he asked suddenly. She blinked. "What?" "There's still music playing, sort of." He held out a hand. "Let me prove that I can follow for once." Olivia hesitated, then placed her hand in his. There was no choreography, no rhythm, but the hush of waves and the distant flicker of guitar strings. He moved carefully, almost reverently, as if memorizing the shape of her against him. The world tilted slightly, just enough for her to feel it. "You know this doesn't make things simple," she said quietly. "I'm not asking for simple, just time." She rested her cheek against his chest for a moment, letting herself listen to the steady beat beneath it. "Time I can give," she whispered. They didn't kiss. Not yet. But they didn't need to. The space between them was finally honest. And for the first time in days, Olivia didn't want to walk away. The morning air was heavier than usual, the clouds hanging low over the water as if the sky couldn't decide whether to rain or retreat. Olivia stood barefoot on the edge of the tide, her resort uniform traded for a simple sundress and a light cardigan. Her shift didn't start for another hour, but she hadn't been able to sleep. She hadn't seen Xander since the bonfire. Not that she'd avoided him, but she hadn't sought him out either. And he hadn't pushed, which somehow made it harder, because now the silence wasn't about distance. It was about waiting. A familiar voice broke the stillness behind her. "You always arrive before the sunrise, or is this a special occasion?" She turned. He looked different. Not in the way people do when they change clothes, but in the way someone looks after a decision has been made. There was a subtle stillness in him now, a calmness she didn't recognize. "I couldn't sleep," she said. "Same." They stood there a moment, the waves curling at their feet. "I got a call last night," he said finally. "From New York." She didn't move. "They want me back. The board's threatening to push a vote if I don't return by Friday. Will you?" "I don't know." She looked at him. "You're not the kind of man who avoids decisions." "I used to be. Before the money became mine, I made them all the time. Now every choice feels like a negotiation." She tucked her hair behind her ear, her voice quieter. "You're scared." He didn't argue. "I think I'm more afraid of going back to being the man I was before I met you." She turned fully to him. "Don't put that on me." "I'm not," he said. "But you reminded me there's a version of me who doesn't need to perform for a boardroom." She exhaled slowly. "So what now?" "I booked a table for tonight. At that restaurant you always avoid." She raised an eyebrow. "The one with the velvet ropes and the menus without prices," he nodded. "I want you to see that part of my world. Not because I think you'll like it, but because I want you to understand all of me, not just the version who dances barefoot at a bonfire." She hesitated. "What if I don't fit there?" He stepped closer. "Then I'll adjust the world until you do." That night, she dressed with shaking hands. She borrowed a dress from one of the other staff members, deep blue silk. low at the back, and slipped on the only pair of heels she owned, which had been collecting dust since her cousin's wedding 2 years ago. When she arrived at the restaurant, she was escorted past the waiting line and into a private terrace overlooking the ocean. Soft piano music floated through the air, and a single candle flickered between 2 crystal glasses. Xander stood as she approached. She stopped a few steps away. "You rented out the terrace. I didn't want to share you tonight." She sat, heart pounding. Champagne was poured. Courses arrived, delicate, beautiful creations she couldn't pronounce. But Xander didn't focus on the food. He watched her with unguarded, steady eyes. "I've never done this before," she admitted after the 3rd course. "Gone to dinner? Let someone like you see me like this, out of uniform, out of control." He reached across the table, brushing his fingers against hers. "You don't lose control. You surrender it when you trust someone." She held his gaze. "And do you think I trust you? I think you're deciding." The waiter cleared the plates, and for a moment only the sound of the sea filled the silence. Then she asked, "Why did you really come here, Xander?" He leaned back. "I told you I needed space." "No, that's what you told everyone, but what were you running from?" He hesitated. "My father left me with more than a company. He left me his mistakes. Legal issues, silent partners, deals I'd never have signed. And the press thinks I'm just another heir with too much money and no backbone." She frowned. "So you came here to disappear." "I came here to remember who I was before the spotlight." "And did you?" "I did," he said, eyes never leaving hers. "Because of you?" She looked down at her hands. "You realize this isn't sustainable." "What do you mean?" "You can't live in a villa on a beach and pretend this is real life. Eventually, you'll have to go back." "I know," he said, "but I don't want to go without you." She froze. "I'm not asking you to move to New York," he said quickly. "I'm not asking for anything right now. I just want to know if you see something real here, something worth fighting for." She took a breath, her chest tight. "I don't know what this is yet," she said honestly. "But I know I've never felt something grow this fast and still make sense." He nodded once. "Then I'll give you space, but I won't walk away." The check never came. The meal had been prepaid, of course. Outside, a sleek black car waited at the curb. "Let me take you home," he said. "I live 5 minutes down the beach. I'll walk." They strolled in silence, the night air cool against their skin. Her heels sank slightly into the sand, and he offered his arm without a word. When they reached the edge of the staff quarters, she stopped, unsure of what came next. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "I'm leaving in 2 days," he said, "but I'll come back if you give me a reason." Her heart thudded painfully. "Don't make promises you don't intend to keep," she whispered. "I never have." Then, with a touch that felt like a question, he leaned in slowly, and this time she met him halfway. The kiss was soft, unhurried. And when they pulled apart, her hands were still tangled in his shirt. Neither of them said goodbye, because it didn't feel like the end. It felt like something beginning. The day Xander left, Olivia didn't go to the dock. She told herself it was because she had a sunrise kayaking tour to lead, but that wasn't true. The truth was harder. Watching him go felt too final, and she wasn't ready for final. 2 weeks passed. The resort was quieter without him. Not in volume, but in presence. He'd filled space without trying, made ordinary sunrises feel like stolen moments. Now, everything around her felt like it was holding its breath. She kept moving. She always did. But something invisible clung to her now, an ache that came with not knowing. Then, on a humid Thursday afternoon, Olivia returned from a mangrove hike to find Janice waving a glossy envelope at her. "This was left for you." A courier dropped it off from the mainland. Olivia frowned, peeling it open. Inside was a single cream-colored card embossed with her name in dark ink, no message, just a plain ticket dated for Saturday and a key, not a hotel key. A real one, heavy, gold, cold in her palm. She stared at it for a long time, her thoughts colliding too fast to sort. That night she sat on her narrow bed, the key resting on her lap like a question. Saturday came. And with it, the decision. She packed a single bag, the flight was short. The car that picked her up was sleek and black, the driver polite and silent. They pulled into a gated property outside the city, modern, glass-fronted, with edges that caught the light like a cut diamond. The front door opened before she could knock. Xander stood there, not in a suit, not in pretense, just a soft gray sweater and jeans, barefoot on the marble floor. "I didn't want to send words," he said. "I didn't trust them to say it right." She stepped inside slowly. "Then say it now." He took a breath. "I've spent the last 2 weeks in rooms with men who measure their worth in percentages and headlines. And the entire time, I kept thinking about a woman who never asked me for anything." She didn't interrupt. "I tried to bury myself in work. I tried to convince myself that what we felt was just timing or the setting or something temporary, but it wasn't." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded slip of paper. "You left this in my villa." She unfolded it. Her own handwriting stared back at her, a note she'd scribbled on a resort itinerary weeks ago. "Yoga at sunrise. Don't be late. The koi are watching." Her fingers clenched around it. "I kept it," he said, "because it was the first time I felt like someone saw me, not the company. Not the inheritance, just me." Olivia set the paper down slowly. "You brought me here for a reason," he nodded. "I bought this house last year. It's never felt like anything but a structure until now." She glanced around. The house was stunning but sterile. Like wealth had built it, but no one had lived in it. "I want to change that," he said. "I want to build something real, not just here with you." She studied him. "You don't even know what I want." "I know I want to find out," a beat passed. "I'm not asking for forever," he continued. "I'm asking for now. For the chance to build something that doesn't come from convenience or timing. I want to wake up next to someone who laughs at koi fish jokes and tells me when I'm being impossible." She crossed the room slowly until they stood toe to toe. "And what if I say yes? Then we figure the rest out, one sunrise at a time." She leaned in, not with hesitation this time, but with certainty. Their kiss wasn't careful like before. It was full of everything they hadn't said: promises, fears, hope. When they parted, she looked up at him, her voice steady. "I'm not moving in tonight," he smiled, eyes soft. "Good, I haven't bought you a toothbrush yet, but I'll stay for dinner," she added. "And breakfast. If you can cook." He laughed, a full, unguarded sound that filled the cavernous house like sunlight. "I make terrible pancakes," he admitted. "Guess I'll teach you." Later, they sat on the rooftop terrace, legs tangled beneath a blanket, a half-drunk bottle of wine between them. The city lights stretched out in the distance, but they didn't look out. They looked at each other. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the key. "You never told me what this opens." He took it, turned it in his fingers, and walked to a small cabinet tucked near the edge of the terrace. Inside was a handmade wooden box. He set it on the table and opened it. Inside were 6 photos, all of her, from the week at the resort. Laughing with sea spray in her hair, bent over a trail map, twirling barefoot at the bonfire, she stared, stunned. "I had them printed the day I left," he said. "I didn't want to forget," she swallowed hard. "You kept all of this." "I kept everything." The key fit into a tiny lock on the box's side. When she turned it, a hidden drawer slid open. Inside was a velvet ring box. She looked at him, heart thundering. "I'm not asking now," he said gently. "But one day, I will." She didn't cry, not because she wasn't moved, but because for the first time in years she felt still. Sure, she reached across the table and took his hand. "One day," she said, and when he leaned in again, it wasn't a beginning or an ending. It was everything in between, a life finally starting. 3 months later, Olivia stood at the edge of her rooftop garden in Tribeca, her fingers wrapped around a mug that had long since gone cold. The city buzzed below, distant and untouchable as twilight bled across the skyline. Fresh flowers bloomed in carefully planted rows behind her, a soft breeze threading through the lavender and rosemary. She never would have pictured herself living in New York, let alone here atop a building that had its own elevator code and a greenhouse. Xander came up behind her, slipping his arms around her waist. "You're doing that thing again," he said against her temple. "What thing?" Staring at the skyline like it's a puzzle you haven't figured out. She leaned back into him. "Maybe I haven't. You've been here 13 weeks. And I've only taken the subway twice. I still get nervous I'll end up in Queens by mistake." He chuckled, his chin brushing her shoulder. "The secret is pretending you belong even if you're hopelessly lost." "Is that what you do? Every day?" She turned in his arms. "How was the board meeting?" Predictably tense, but I pushed through the restructuring plan. "They'll grumble, but they'll sign off. Even the older one with the purple tie, especially him. I pointed out that the old model was bleeding money. You didn't." "I did." I also reminded him he's been using one of the company jets for personal travel. Her eyes widened. "Xander," he tilted his head. "I was diplomatic," she laughed, resting her forehead against his. "You're going to be the end of them, or the beginning of something better." He kissed her softly, then pulled back just enough to speak. "Speaking of beginnings, I made a reservation tonight." "Where?" "No velvet ropes, no 6 courses, just a neighborhood place in the West Village with mismatched chairs and excellent lasagna." "That sounds perfect." "You haven't heard the best part. They serve wine in tumblers." "Sold." She stepped inside to change, leaving her mug behind. He watched her go, the same sense of quiet awe still catching him off guard. She hadn't just moved into his life, she'd rearranged it, made space where he hadn't even realized there was room. Later that night, she sat across from him at a tiny wooden table by a street-facing window, her hair pulled up, a loose sweater slipping off one shoulder. The restaurant hummed with warmth and laughter. Her spoon clinked against her espresso cup. "I got an offer last week," she said. He looked up from his plate. "From where?" "The community center in Soho. They're opening a new program for under-resourced schools. Outdoor education, environmental programs, that kind of thing." His expression shifted, something hopeful flickering beneath the surface. "You thinking about taking it?" I already said yes. A grin tugged at his mouth. "You didn't tell me." I wanted to wait until we were somewhere with red sauce and real napkins. He reached across the table, his thumb brushing the inside of her wrist. "I'm proud of you. They asked if I had a New York address. You told them about the rooftop garden." "I told them I live with a man who argues with his espresso machine." He raised an eyebrow. "It's a matter of principle." "That machine costs more than my first car and still refuses to make a proper crema." She grinned. "We'll figure it out. We always do." When they got home, the city lights stretching out behind them, he led her to the piano room. It was a space she rarely entered, but tonight, soft music played from hidden speakers, and the room was lit with tall glass candles flickering in silence. A velvet box sat on the keys. She didn't move for a long time. He stepped beside her, not touching her, just waiting. "I wanted to ask you the right way," he said. "Not because time passed or because it's expected, but because I can't imagine another year, another day without you." She turned slowly. "I know we've already built something," he said, "but I want to keep building a life, a home, a future. Every version of it with you." She opened the box. Inside was a ring that caught the candlelight and scattered it like stars, but it was the way he knelt quietly, reverently, without fanfare that made her throat tighten. "Yes," she said before he could even ask. "Yes, Xander." He stood, and she kissed him like it was the first time, like the city didn't exist outside those windows, like the whole world had narrowed to his arms around her and the promise between them. They married that fall. It wasn't a grand affair. Just family, a few close friends, and rows of sunflowers in a garden overlooking the Hudson. She wore a dress with pockets and bare feet. He wore a suit that matched the sky. They wrote their own vows. He cried before he even got through the first sentence. Afterward, they moved into a brownstone in Brooklyn, a compromise between her love of green space and his refusal to abandon good coffee. She turned the back courtyard into a herb garden. He installed a ridiculous outdoor pizza oven. They hosted weekly dinners with friends and impromptu movie nights under string lights. She took the community job full-time, building programs that brought kids to the ocean for the first time. He restructured the company's priorities, shifting investments to sustainable initiatives and community development. They fought sometimes over laundry, over missed dinners, over whether or not a kitchen really needed 3 blenders, but they always came back to each other, stronger for the struggle. On their first anniversary, he surprised her with a trip back to Serenity Sands, the same villa, the same beach. This time she led him to the koi pond. "You're not going in again, are you?" she asked. He grinned. "Not unless the fish request it." She kissed him beneath the same swaying palms, her fingers tangled in the collar of his linen shirt, the breeze warm and familiar. "You know," she whispered, "the koi were the beginning of all this." "I think it was the woman with the towel." "No," she said, smiling. "It was the man who didn't flinch when I saw through every part of him." He wrapped his arms around her. "And the woman who let me become someone better." They stood there as the sun dipped low, the world around them golden and quiet, and for once, neither of them needed to say anything at all.